So I think it's a pretty profound acknowledgement that if you are fully present when you do something, this is the absolute best way to prepare a solid future. And of course, we're absorbed with so many things, and we come back doing less, can do more. Yes, you've got your phone coming up when you're in the evening, and your phone is coming, it's ringing. You've got WhatsApp, Slack, and many things. Spending the time and being fully present with your family, or being fully present in a meeting, being in a meeting and kind of responding calls and this kind of thing. You're just not fully present for yourself, but also for the people that you're with. So I think being fully there is extremely important. So that would be my advice is if you want to build a strong future, be to fit in your present.
We talked earlier about the things that sort of hold you back from ultimate performance. How much is a fear of failure part of that? When we talk about sort of elite athletes, I know this from my personal experience being married to one, but definitely this fear of failure is a big deal. Is that the same that you see that across other driven professionals from the world of business or politics or other professions that you've worked with?
So I think one of the first point is being clear on your vision and what you really want to achieve. Because once you're pretty clear about what you want to achieve, and you get into action, that already kind of get you really focused on the execution. But I think that really depends. Failure should be. The best way to approach failure is as a stepping stone. And I'm gonna tell you something. I personally sometimes get a bit scared when I'm not failing enough. Because I'm like, okay, Alex, you're not taking enough risk, and then you're staying in your comfort zone. And so I've got to push myself to do things that are outside the comfort zone. So I think for people that I coach, we really kind of look at it from a vision standpoint. Where do you want to go? I had the example quite recently with a football player where we were talking about, Alex, I fear that I'm going to be on the bench and I really want to play. This fear of being on the bench made him not taking risk. And as he was not taking risk, he was actually increasing the risk of being on the bench. So one of the things that we've been kind of working on together is playfulness, and just be you. Because, very often the mind is kind of coming with the loops and the beliefs that we talked about. And for sports athletes, the body knows a lot about what needs to be done, where the mind is kind of, coming along and kind of, hey, this is what might happen and all these kind of things. So here in this precise example, what we've done is just kind of just play, just be good, be you and the best that you can be. And then I was kind of looking in the newspapers, and he got, at the end of the game, the man of the match. And he was just feeling so happy because he could really play and just letting go of this kind of bench fear that he had. So I think what you focus on, if you focus on fear, probably it will come knocking. But if you are fully present in the execution of what you've got to do and keep this playfulness of what you do, and we come back to the alignment of, are you really doing, and the being, are you really doing what you want to do?
We always sort of ask this question of performance coaches, sort of what can you take from other areas in which you're, gleaning information from people into different worlds. So what can you take from the sports world into the business world? And that question comes about a lot. But I know that you work as well with a lot of prisoners. What can you take from your learnings in that area into your work with footballers, CEOs, people running serious enterprise? Are there real commonalities that you can see there as well?
Yes, of course. So let me maybe share a little bit of a story to start with. Let me take you for the first time I actually got in a prison. It was morning, 8 a.m. So I've never been close to any prison, right? So the reason I actually decided to do that is because it's great to work with millionaires, but how about, could you, Alex, work with people who are locked physically and mentally? What would that be to coach people in that kind of area? So I got there 8 a.m. in front of the prison, big walls, barbed wires. You get in, you give your phone, so no mobile phone. If anyone wants to call you, they need to call the prison. And then you go through the security check. And then it's not like Heathrow or Gatwick, it's just proper check because they look for drug. And then after you get in, open a door, another one. And then you just realize you're just in this kind of locked environment. And I remember then they told me, oh, Alex, we're just going to go through Wing A. Oh, Wing A is the kind of basic kind of wing. And, all the prisoners are going to be kind of there. So just one bit of recommendation, just don't stare. And I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to stare. And so I just, went into that and I was thinking, Alex, what are you doing here? Because you're just, very close from probably the, very dangerous people in the UK. And then we went to the coaching room, and then the first guy comes in, like massive guy, and was like, okay. And then you've got the buzzer that is kind of, it's got to be 2 meters from you in case anything happens. So naturally, coaching in that kind of conditions for me was a bit of a challenge. Then the second guy comes in with like a massive scar on his face. And I was with another coach, so you're not by yourself. But then when we started, the very first thing that came up from one of the prisoners, there were a bunch of them. It's a kind of group coaching session. The very first thing was to talk about visualization. He talked about vibration and visualization, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I can talk about with exec. And in my mind, just prisoner was just a label, something, and it all became very concrete and real, that we're not so different in some sense. So I think what I want to share here is that we believe that sometimes people are very far, but they're not so far. And the commonalities that I can see between prisoners and exec, there are a couple. So let me tell you a story to explain this first point. I was talking to an exec 2 weeks ago, and he was sharing with me that when he was young, he was very close to actually doing things that could take him in prison. This kind of willingness to break the rules, as this willingness can take you from becoming a millionaire or get in prison. But luckily, he met someone, and then he went to a different country, and he went on a different path, and he left, what could have, taken him not in a so great place. So breaking the willingness to breaking the rules is something that, I see as commonalities, but also wearing a mask in a prison. This is a tough environment. So it's very difficult to be you. You've got to be strong. You can't show weakness. For a CEO, when the company is not doing so well, when it's not easy, you've got to be the one kind of being there for everyone. So can you show that actually you've got to be there for people? So I think there is this kind of comparison that I'm noticing as well, operating in very tough environments on both sides.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, you would never have thought that would have been so clear cut, but it really, really is, isn't it? The things that you've mentioned, the kind of the rule breaking, that sort of mask wearing, almost sort of a competitive edge in many ways.
Yes, I think it's just like how life, can take you from one path to another one. What really strikes me is how, and it's not only one exec. These guys, they just, look, if you think about a company like Kodak, at the beginning of the 20th century, they were the first one to kind of, move forward with dividends, for employees. But then Kodak now, it's just like, how do you keep breaking the rules and, this sustained high performance of being always kind of on the edge. And so that's this kind of concept of kind of breaking the rules, which also, by the way, if we come back to the beginning of this conversation, how you make your beliefs and your beliefs make you, and how you can be trapped into this narrative about yourself where actually you love the narrative, and you actually make your belief system kind of, you would expect when you've got new information to kind of change your belief system. But actually, your belief system make the information fit what you really believe. So this kind of willingness to break the rules, to go and find the edge, it's very subtle. You just don't realize it. And that's why these marginal gains, when you talk about athletes and footballers, physically, they are all really, really strong. But what really makes the difference is how you apply you set your mindset into something that is going to allow you to grow. And we very often talk about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, which is also a very interesting aspect I work with. That's at the core of what I do. And let me take an example. Think about a football player, a striker getting on the pitch, and he's saying, I want to score 2 goals. And he's going to get on the pitch and he scores only 1. At the end of the game, he's like, I just not happy with my performance. And it's just not going to be happy. The mood is just there. The behavior has not been in line with what he hoped. And then it's going to be up and down depending on the results. Fixed mindset, this is what I want to achieve. Think about another player who's going to come on the pitch, a striker, and he's going to say, I don't care about the number of goals, which is counterintuitive. But what he's going to say is, this is going to be the absolute best game I've ever played. And I'm going to do the best I can today. And what does that mean? And in between trainings, you actually work on that kind of mindset. And I can tell you, in the long run, because I've seen it again and again and again with people I coach, you just remove the ball. You just remove the stress. We were talking about failing. Yes, thank you. So we failed. Okay, so what? What's happening? Let's dive into it. Let's learn from it. It's, of course, failing sometimes can be really tough, but what is the narrative that you put on failing? And I think society put a narrative of it's not good. But if you really work with the growth mindset, you nourish yourself with this kind of moment as stepping stones for you to get to the next level.
It's a great way of looking at it, isn't it? And it's something that everyone can dive into. It's not exclusive, is it? It's very inclusive, looking at it from that perspective. So bearing in mind this is a Performance People podcast and everyone wants to know or glean information on how they can live a better performance standpoint and lifestyle, what can they do? What's one thing that someone could do every single day that could lead to better performance? I suspect you're now going to use the growth mindset analogy, but is there anything that they could do? The first thing they do when they get up in the morning and they say, this is going to give me a better day.
So we've got so many unique kinds of people listening, and each one's got a very unique mental makeup. So it's not so easy to give a single answer. But I think you've got to be very clear about what you want. I would really start there again. What do you want? Because very often, we move, the mind is going here and there. So clarity about what you want is important. And I also want to go back to, this notion of performance that is around measurement, that is around, just kind of the habits, the routine, just the mechanical kind of way of looking at performance, and just go back into how your self-love is such a powerful and transformative way to look at performance. You don't need to suffer, to go where you want to go. So it could be Very simple things. Go in front of a mirror and say, I love you. I love you.
I don't think I can.
You could start. You could also kind of just starting with gratefulness. You open your eyes in the morning. It's a new day. I'm just so grateful to be here. It's a new start. You don't need to climb the mountains with like years and years of emotional baggage. So I think the ability to let go. What can I let go today? And just to climb the mountain lighter. So there's so many ways that, depending on if you're talking to like a high performer, like taking it very, very seriously, and to that person I would be like vision clear, but also self-love, because these people can be like really just a relentless self-discipline, can be like a very strict teacher that is not going to give you any praise. We can go back to the climbing the mountain with your blisters and you ignoring them. You can actually, and that might actually give you an extra 10% of performance.
It's true. I mean, those very people that you speak of have such high expectations of themselves, and ultimately are most disappointed by themselves if it doesn't go according to plan. So you're right, that self-love piece for people like that will be a challenge, but one that clearly is worth overcoming.
Absolutely. It's not so intuitive for these kind of people. So that's why I think, from a coaching perspective, look, I come from a finance background. I've got I like to have, my tattoo with my 7 stars to tell me like, this is the kind of level where you need to go. So that kind of reminds me that. But all these kind of elements are important. The relentless spirit, all the things that we talk about with performance. But it all starts inside, and with this at the absolute core, with this kind of self-love that you've got. When there is nothing left, you've given everything, that's the companion that you're going to have in the end. And so it's just also connect really well with the inner voice and the inner story that you tell yourself. It connects with the belief.
Alex, thank you so much. That's been really, really fascinating. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.